We're ready. Good evening. Thank you for joining us for the Mountain View Fire Community Workshop number 2. My name is Justin Caparuso, Public Information, and I'm going to hand it over to Supervisor John Peters, but first wanted to run through a few housekeeping items. Thank you for joining. If you're watching over Zoom, please note that there is a chat and a Q&A function. We are going to end the workshop with a question and answer period and encourage you to listen to the content, and then should there be questions that you'd like addressed, please feel free to drop those in the Q&A. We also have the chat function, and panelists may at any time drop a URL, a web link, or other information that is relevant to the discussion into the chat function. So please be sure to look at that. I will also be monitoring, we are streaming live onto our Facebook page, and so I'll be monitoring questions and comments on there as well. Thank you again for joining us, and Supervisor Peters, please take it away.
Okay, well, thank you all. I appreciate you all tuning in again. One thing that I wanted to mention is that we were talking today about holding these weekly at this point in time to be current on covering situational awareness and providing more opportunity for real-time conversation and questions. But tonight the focus will be on debris removal, and Brian Abiel with the Department of Toxic Substance Control will speak on phase 1. We also want to talk a little bit about the right of entry forms and what those mean. Post your questions, as Justin said, in the chat or the Facebook Live. Some upcoming topics that we're talking about are having an update from United policyholders regarding insurance. And on that note, we got word in the last few days from the Insurance Commissioner's Office at the state of California. Commissioner Lara has added the Mountain View Fire vicinity to a 1-year moratorium with about 2 million other policyholders in the state of California on non-renewals. So you cannot be non-renewed or canceled for at least 1 year with this moratorium. Another good piece of good news, the Small Business Administration has announced that a loan program will be made available for Mono County, any business or residents that had an impact from the fire, very low interest loans. And we're going to cover trailers, more information about the trailers and intermediate housing coming up. And a couple of things I wanted to make sure everyone was aware of: that the community center is open daily, Monday through Saturday, where it's the donation center for the next month. And the Sift kits that were provided by the Red Cross during the initial response are now being passed out. If you come in and you've had fire debris on your property, these are something that the Red Cross has provided. And also the cash donations that have come in through the Mammoth and Northern Mono chambers, those are starting to be dispersed very soon. So make sure that you've checked in with the Northern Mono chamber, and also make sure on the trailer front that you've checked in with social services to let them know your needs there. So with all that said, we have some familiar faces here on the screen because we're repeaters. But Stephanie Trujillo, do you want to introduce yourself? I'm not sure if people are familiar with you and your role.
Sure. So I'm Stephanie Trujillo. I work in the finance office for the county, and I'm currently the EOC finance section chief for the MVF fire.
Thank you very much. And I think at this point, I'll either turn it back over to Justin, or Brian can just launch.
Okay. Go ahead, Brian. Thank you for joining us again. Appreciate your time.
All right, thank you. Again, my name is Brian Abiel. I am a senior environmental scientist with the Department of Toxic Substances Control in the Emergency Response Unit. We've been mission tasked by the state of California at the request of Mono County to assist with the removal of household hazardous waste, asbestos, and electronic waste from the properties that were destroyed by the Mountain View fire. that's our main objective, but also there's two other objectives, to protect the public health and the environment, and to remove the long-term environmental impacts. And that's why we're working with the county to go in and remove all those items that I just mentioned, so that we can remove those hazards for the health of the public as well as the environment. We have a home base, and that is the Walker Landfill, which is our staging, and that's where we'll be taking the waste back. That's where we'll be keeping all of our equipment. We will have two teams in the field. I'm the project manager overseeing these two teams. We have a Dtsc lead with each team. We'll have a county representative from the environmental health with each team, as well as the hazmat crews, as well as a certified asbestos consultant. You might ask, well, how did they determine that, my property needed to be assessed? Well, there were some damage assessments that took place prior to us coming out to determine what properties we need to go to. And Justin, if you could pull up that web link that I provided for our dashboard. I just want to let everybody know who's listening that they can go to this dashboard. It's on our webpage, dtsc.ca.gov. And when you go to the webpage, there'll be a main header that you'll see for fire recovery. And if you click on that, it'll take you to this dashboard. And this dashboard will answer several questions like, why is my property being assessed? Is it at cost to me? So forth. Several different questions that you'll find answers to. But also you'll find a status board that is color representative. So you'll see parcels that are lit up that have no color, just a yellow border, and that represents that they haven't been assessed yet. When they turn green, that means they've been assessed. If they turn red, that means we couldn't access because there was a gate. If it turns like an aqua blue, that's because there's a physical hazard that prevents us to get in. But that gives you an idea of if your property's been assessed. Oh, here we go. So if you scroll down, Justin, here's just a quick little intro of what we do. And then these are the questions that I was referring to. If you clicked on the plus symbol, you'll have a drop-down answer in response to the question. Now, if you scroll down a little farther, you'll see the public dashboard mapping system, a little explanation of it. And there, you'll see the Mountain View fire. And so right now, you see 125 properties lit up with just the borders around the parcels. And there's no color, and that's because we haven't assessed. We'll begin the assessments tomorrow when we go to the properties, assess the properties, and then start to remove the waste, and then take the waste back to the staging area. You can, I think, go off this and then bring me back up. So what we do is we start off every day and we have a safety meeting, make sure that everybody's on the same page, because public life and safety is most important for ourselves, as well as when we're out working in your community and working with the ones who have been affected. So we go to a site. The first thing that we do is we evaluate it. We want to find out, okay, what's the enter points, what's the exit points, what waste is there, what does the site look like to us? And then we talk to ourselves, we have a little meeting where we find out, okay, what's our strategic plan for this site based on what we're seeing. And then we send a couple of people go in and they start monitoring the site to make sure that the site, the ambient air is safe for us to enter. Once it's all cleared, we have a team that goes in and sweeps the property. And what they do is they look for household hazardous waste, which could be compressed gas cylinders, like a barbecue propane tank, could be pool chemicals, fertilizers, pesticides, lead acid batteries from vehicles that have been burned. It could be aerosol cans, thinners, paints, household cleaning products. Could be window siding of the house. It could be piping insulation, floor tiles, anything that that is determined to be a household hazardous waste, asbestos, or an e-waste. E-waste could be stereos with receivers in it, TVs with the cathode ray tubes, anything that has metals. We try to pull those out of those equipments, and that's what we try to recycle. But the metals will be sent off for recycled, and then the other waste will be sent to the incinerators or specific disposal facilities. So when we go in and we remove these household hazardous waste, asbestos, and electronic waste, we actually document all this. We document it with a hard copy form, and then we input it into our app so that the information is available to the public through the county, if the county, however the county wishes to work with Dtsc to provide that information to the individual parcel owners. When we leave the site, we actually will post a sign, and it will be a white sign that will say that we've been there, we've assessed the property. It will have contact information, which will be Mono County Environmental Health, and the general main line that you can call for further questions. But once we go in and we remove all the household hazardous waste and we post a sign, then the property owners are able to go in and start removing waste. But there is that phase 2. And I believe that on this meeting that they're going to talk about that, the ROA process, if you're going to opt in or opt out. I'll back away from that because that's not our arena. Some of the, usually a typical question is are there any cost to us during this phase 1? And no, there is not a cost. The federal government and the state is working with the county to remove the waste at no cost to the property owners. So please be relieved, there is no cost to you at all for this phase 1 removal. That's the general overview of what we'll be doing starting tomorrow. And with each site, it brings different variables. Some sites could have a lot of chemicals, some can have not that many at all. So whenever we go to a site, it always brings a new challenge because every site is different. And I'll open the floor for questions, or I'll wait till questions till later in the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Brian. I have one quick question. When you say there's no cost to the property owners, what is there a contribution from their insurance company if they were insured that would be in play?
Now, in past fires, what has happened in phase 2, not in phase 1, but in phase 2, if you opt into the government program, and this is outside my arena, but my understanding is that the state can come back and try to tap into the debris portion of the insurance, not the overall insurance. So let's say you get a $100,000 policy payment, and $5,000 of that is supposed to be set aside to deal with specifically debris cleanup. The state can come back and try to tap into that. But if the homeowner uses that money before the state comes and tries to tap into it, my understanding is that there will be no money available. So then there will be no money that the state will pull out from that debris insurance money.
Okay. Are there specific questions right now? Or Louis, do you want to talk a little bit about your role in the coming days and weeks with phase 1?
Sure, I can chime in, and actually I was wondering if you know, I'll throw it out there actually to Nicholas Chrysosto. I'm sorry, how do I say your name, Nicholas? Chrysosto. I'm sorry about that. Nick is with Cal OES, and Nick, I don't mean to put you on the spot. If you're just here to answer questions, that's fine. I just wanted to give you an opportunity to you know, to introduce any issues that you want to speak about, and then I'll just kind of go into phase 2, or I can do it right now. Oh, you're still muted, Nick.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
All right, perfect. Thanks for the intro. My name is Nicholas Chrysosto. I'm the Deputy Branch Director here for the Southern Region with Cal OES. As far as us jumping into it, you can go ahead and take it if you'd like. Today we were more focused on phase 1, household hazardous waste removal. There will be a phase 2 workshop, I believe somewhere down the line, to answer all these questions about ROEs and all everything that goes into it. I am very new to the program as well, so I'm kind of learning as I go. But we will have all these answers for you for all your questions. But yeah, to keep it kind of focused today, we'll stick with phase 1, but we will get to phase 2. Rest assured. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick.
And
Yeah,
Louis,
so I'm sorry.
if I could jump in, we have a couple questions in the comment bar that I'd like to address really quick. One of them is how to know if your ROE has been received. We're not sending out emails to individuals saying that we've received it, but you can reach out to me and I can let you know that yes, we've received it or not. And I'll put my email in the Q&A box. And the other question was how to, if there's things that you don't want removed. So the example was garden and stones. There is a form on the last few pages of the ROE that is specifically for that. You can put notes as to leave this, draw a map, things like that. So it's important that that is included on the ROE. Thank you, Louis.
Yes, and Stephanie, you kind of touched upon one of the things that I wanted to mention too, and I apologize for those of you out there, and obviously somebody who sent in that question has either sent in an ROE or they've emailed me one, and when I'm receiving those, once I open them up, I'll open up my email, I'm saying receive, thank you, and I'll make any contact with you, any questions about it, so forth. So if you haven't heard, if you emailed me directly, lmolina@mono.ca.gov, which is at the top of that ROE, I just haven't opened it yet. If you haven't heard from me, it's just because it's in my email. I'm getting to them as quickly as I can. So please be a little more patient, and I will be sure to get back to you when I do receive that. And then what I'm doing is when I open those up, I'm forwarding those to Stephanie. And Stephanie is the one who's going through the ROEs, and she'll come back to you with any kind of questions of things that might be missing, things of that nature. And then she gets them logged onto our database. So the bottom line is, if you've emailed in to me specifically, I will get to you. And if you don't hear from me by the end of the week, email me again, and I'll make sure I find that ROE if I've lost it. But I've gotten down to pretty much everybody so far, but I think I have about 7 or 8 of these that I need to get through, and I'll try and get over those in the next couple of days. But you'll hear from me. So and then Stephanie, yeah.
On that note, thank you so much. So we have a question here regarding whether people can edit once they've already submitted their ROE. Should they just email you if they have a change?
Stephanie, what do you think? Should they go to you or come to me? I'm going to probably ask you to upload those edits anyway. I mean, what would you think would be the better way?
Yeah, I would say if it was done via our database, so done online, I believe you can edit, but don't hold me to it. I can look into that and find out. If it was done and emailed to Louis, then I would say email any changes, and then we can upload it to the database.
Yeah, you can email it to me, and then I will forward that to Stephanie. So that way I have a copy of it as well. It's probably best if you come through me, and then I make sure, if you originally came through me, then do send any edits to me, and I'll forward those to Stephanie.
Okay. Any other related questions to the presentation so far? We want to give Justin Nalder a chance to give a situation update on the fire.
Okay.
Real quick, sorry I don't have video. My internet's down here tonight. A couple things Stephanie has seen on the ROEs that have come in, and some of the reasons she's having to contact property owners is please make sure all property owners, everybody on the property has to sign the ROE. Also, there's several that were not signed at all. And if you're doing it online, you can click in where it says sign here in the signature block and kind of use your finger to sign your name, whether you're doing it or your mouse if you're doing it on a computer. So please make sure that they are signed. The person who asked the question about editing the ROE, it's one of the paper forms that were hand delivered to the Walker General Store. We would suggest writing your name on a piece of paper and adding that information, and we'll pick it up with another batch and match it up.
Great. Thanks, Mary. Justin?
Yeah, thanks. So I'm going to touch on just kind of an overview, a high-level overview of a lot of what the Emergency Operations Center has conducted to date. You've heard some more of the specifics already, and obviously we'll have some more workshops to get into more detail of some of these. Thankfully, we've been approved for state assistance on this cleanup, which is why we've got Brian and his teams out today, and they're going to be out on site tomorrow. So this is the phase 1 cleanup effort on remediation that we're getting underway. Mr. Peters mentioned the SBA loan program that we were just recently approved for. This is for individuals to get loans on rebuild, and we'll get more information on that. That was a process in itself. We were approved for that. We continue to collect information through needs assessments. If you haven't been contacted or if you haven't provided the needs that you wish to relay to our community services branch, please do so. Reach out to Kathy Peterson or one of the members of her team and make sure that we have that information recorded for you. We continue to collect that information so that we can try to identify and match resources that we may have. We've assembled a housing task force, and John mentioned a little bit about some options for intermediate housing. We're looking into those and trying to match families with needs that may be available from other jurisdictions and or other resources that we've had come in. We've mentioned the right of entry forms. These are pretty critical forms. If you'd like to have this assistance during phase 2, the right of entry form is the magic form that gets it done for you. You may have questions along the way. We've got our team with Stephanie and Lewis and several other folks working behind the scenes. Feel free to reach out. If we don't have the answer, we'll get the answer for you. We don't see these forms all the time. They came through the state. We made our updates so that it's appropriate for us, but some of it's a little new, and so we'll make sure that it makes sense for our recovery efforts. We had a branch specifically dedicated to animal services, and we've pretty well wrapped that up. I think that to the extent possible, the animals that we've found, we know the owners, we've got homes for them for the long term, and everything should be looking good on that end. So that's a giant plus for the animal services section. On the communications lines, we've had some comments from folks that needed updates about their Frontier landlines. I believe to date that all of the hard lines for Frontier should be in place and operable. If anybody has a differing situation, let us know, but that's our understanding as of now. Tomorrow at the Board of Supervisors meetings, we will have an opportunity to present additional fee waivers. These ones are going to be for items that would typically go through environmental health or public works for grading and encroachments and a few other items, so that we have these in similar fashion to the other fees that we've already waived and already had approved from the Board of Supervisors to waive. We continue to update our Mountain View Portal website with information that we're gathering and information coming in. So I would encourage you to go there to get updates on your own if you're not already speaking with one of us. We'll try to make as much as possible available there so that it's convenient to do from afar in case you are right now afar, staying somewhere else. That's going to do it for the overview from the EOC functions. Thank you.
Great, Supervisor Peters. I think unless there's anything further, we can dive into some Q&A.
Certainly, yeah. One of the questions I noticed was, are the Sift kits available at the community center? The answer is yes. You have to fill out a form to get them though, I believe. Correct, Justin?
Yeah, that's correct. We want to make sure that each affected family has an opportunity to get one, which is why we ask for the name and the address, so that we don't have somebody accidentally pick up 3 with the intent of giving them to their neighbors and never making it there. So yeah, they are available. I would like to make special note that these Sift kits are being made available now. However, we still have a standing public health order not to go sift through the debris, not to sift through the burn debris until such time that that order is changed, which would happen likely after phase 1 is completed. So as you watch the updates occur through the website and DTSC is able to make their sweep, that would then dictate the availability for you to go in and have essentially a clean property to start sifting for your stuff.
And I want to add one thing. I don't know if this is going to be a question or not, but if you are remote right now and you plan to come back to Mono County and stay at a motel, that you can, if you're affected by the fire, it is not part of the state order for the nightly rental ban. So if you're affected by the fire, you can come back and rent a room in Mono County or California to, you know, be there while certain things are happening at your property.
Which areas are going to be cleaned up first?
So I don't know, Brian, if you wanted to take this one, I'll let you speak and then I'll fill in.
Yeah, sure. So tomorrow morning when we meet with the county representatives, we'll be talking about that specifically. Typically what we do is we try to start assessing properties in a strategic, effective, efficient manner. So we're not going to go from like the north side, do one property and then go to the south side and then go to the east side and the west side. So wherever we start, we're going to concentrate our effort in that area and move from property to property, adjacent properties. Specifically what parcel we're going to start at, I won't know that until we have that communication at our safety meeting tomorrow. But rest assured, we're not going to do this in a sporadic fashion. We're going to start in one area and then sweep. If we start in the north, we're going to go to the south from the north. So I think hopefully you get an idea from what I just mentioned.
Yeah, and one of the methods that was recommended to us is to start in the most sensitive, environmentally sensitive areas. And so tomorrow when we get the chance to talk about it, we'll probably recommend to start down near the river and start moving from there. And that essentially puts us on the south end of the burn.
We are
Great, thanks, guys.
obliged to meet the county's desire to where they want to start.
Property owners may be able to use debris insurance to remove trees not removed by Cal OES. How does this work? Do we want to see what is left before using our insurance debris insurance?
Yes, I would recommend that's the case. The tree removal is going to occur for those trees that are directly in the way of the cleanup process, or those which are deemed to still be in hazard, like if they could fall on somebody. So you may not know which trees are left if you jump on it beforehand. I would suggest waiting to see.
Will the county take care of the fencing, the posts and barbed wire that run along East Side Lane? Can we remove it?
Nicholas, is this you?
I think I can address that. And Nicholas, feel free, if I'm wrong, let me know. But the fencing, the perimeters of the property is not part of phase 2. Phase 2 is going to be in the footprint of the burn debris piles. So, and then of course the hazard trees, as Justin just mentioned. So You know, you've got a garage, that's what they're going to be removing. That you've got a house that burned, that's what they're going to be removing. The other areas, you know, vinyl fences or things like that that have been burned along the perimeter, my understanding is that is on the property owner to make those repairs and remove that part of the destruction.
My parcel is on 10 acres. I will be in a travel trailer on my lot. Will I be able to stay on the lot while all phases of cleanup are done, as long as I will not be in the way? Also, will logistical plan about cleanup and estimated dates, once you have them, be posted on some website?
I can address for the phase one. We welcome homeowners, property owners, renters to be there when we arrive on scene. We're more than happy to answer questions and listen to what they have to say about what's on their property. They give us a perspective that we don't have. They live there, they know what's there. So we welcome your information. And we always try to make contact with the owner when we arrive on scene, if the owner is, or the renter is there on site.
And then we will post a timeline update. It won't be, you know, super detailed property based in terms of the phase and kind of where we're at, but it'll specifically lay out the phases and a timeline on the website, the portal that we have. Can steel from manufactured or modular be removed in order for our individual amount is less, or is it best to leave all debris in place? I think we've answered, it's best to leave all debris in place for now. What about marking property lines? Is that something done by the county, and is it done before debris is cleared, or is that the owner's responsibility?
I honestly don't know the answer to that. I know that the in the other fire we had a few years ago down in the south end, the property lines were identified. I think primarily for the debris removal end of things, it's not crucial. I mean, they're not going to be out at the very perimeters for most of these properties, but you know, I think what we can do is we can get you an answer to that question, but I don't know who is responsible for marking property lines or to what degree that's necessary.
Thanks, Louis. It looks, if we are not staying in Walker, will we still be notified so we can help with information? I imagine that means help. Will we still be notified when the cleanup is going to be taking place on individual properties?
Yeah, I would say for that, we plan on posting Dtsc's map URL onto our Mountain View Fire webpage portal, so that if you're used to going to our page already, there should be a link there. You can click on it and see what the status of your property is. That's going to be fairly real-time updates that they provide, if I understand correctly. And then phase two, we will likely look into either a similar method for providing updates digitally and or providing some type of signage out front so that you know what phase of cleanup your property's in.
I'd like to just address the timing of the information on DTSC's dashboard. When we go to the sites, we try to upload the color change for the parcel, as I described earlier on that dashboard. Occasionally we are offline, we lose wireless connection, but as soon as we do, we upload it, and at the latest it would be in the evening when we return to the hotel. And once that change occurs, then it goes live.
Great, thanks. Will just debris be removed, or will the concrete slab be removed?
I'll answer that. All concrete will be removed. A slab, whether it be a slab or a perimeter foundation or pillars, whatever the case may be, they're going to be removed if you sign up for this state removal program. So there's not an option to leave a foundation in place unless you do the cleanup on your own. Then there's some guidance on that. In fact, if you go to the frequently asked questions on the Mountain View Fire website, there's some answers that address that question regarding foundations on that particular document. So you can find those there.
And I'll post that link in the chat as well. There's
Can I interrupt for 1 second? I just want to, in case people are jumping off early, there is going to be a fire update tomorrow at the Board of Supervisors meeting, as Justin already informed everyone. There will also be an update at the RPAC meeting, which is Thursday evening at 6:30. And also on that RPAC agenda is a presentation on insurance. We had planned to do this before the fire, so now we'll incorporate the recent moratorium on non-renewals into that discussion as well. So you're all welcome to attend either of those other two meetings this week. And sorry to interrupt, Justin, but I didn't want to forget to let people know if they're already jumping off.
no problem. It looks like we have one question that I found in the chat, which is, what about those who are on trust property? Is it different from the other property owners?
From what I was told on the state-assisted cleanup, yes, it is different. Trust lands and allotment properties, both dealt with on a federal level and does not qualify for the state-assisted cleanup efforts. I do know that there are other funding streams available for those type of lands on a federal level.
Justin, I think they may be referring to like a family trust versus, tribal trust. I'm not sure if that's what they were referring to, because the name they were talking about on the ROEs and the names of the people on the actual deeds needed to all be on the ROE, and if it's in a trust. So maybe we can get some clarification on that, because I don't know the answer to that. And we can definitely have that information posted up on the website, I believe.
And I can answer that question. Usually if there's a trust, we still have owners' names on record. So both is better for the ROE. But if you have to go one or the other, go owner's names versus the trust. It just makes it easier to find that information for us in our property tax system. Yeah.
Okay, and I do see that they did say it is tribal trust, so those are not eligible for state assistance. Is that correct, Justin?
Yeah, that's what I was told early on, is that the state-assisted cleanup effort doesn't apply there. But as I was mentioning, there are other funding streams available for tribal allotments and trust land. If you need help with that, reach out and perhaps I would be the best contact to follow up on it. Otherwise, if you are represented by a tribe, federally recognized tribe, certainly they have other resources available. That's probably the best we have for now.
I don't see any further open questions.
Justin, may I be able to add a couple of things that I did not mention earlier?
Please.
Sure. When we go to properties, when we find containers, for example, a 5-gallon propane barbecue cylinder, we'll devalve it. if it's empty, and we'll mark it with an X, and that white X, we mark it with a white paint. And that just is representative that it's empty. So that can be removed as a non-hazardous waste with the phase 2 operations. You might, if someone has, say on a ranch, has bulk fuels in a tank, and that tank has been compromised and we've removed the fuels from that tank, we'll mark it with MT, representing it to be empty and no longer presents a hazardous waste hazard. Some of those properties that we do go to, we might not be able to get on site because of a locked gate, or there's a tree that's blocking the road and we can't access it, or there might be some live wires that are down and we don't want to cross the live wires because that's a life and safety issue. We'll work with the county to try to return to those. But if we aren't able to at the end of the phase 1, that typically the household hazardous waste is best always actually in the phase 2. When you opt into the program, we'll return and deal with those household hazardous waste and asbestos and electronic waste. Thank you.
What is the expected timeline, or best estimate of the timeline on phase 1? And then what would be the gap in time for the commencement of phase 2? Do we have answers to those questions? I'm trying to channel the thoughts and concerns and questions of the community at this point.
Well, for phase 1, it's rather difficult to provide an end timeline because, well, we have 125 properties so far that we know that we need to assess. We're hoping, that we can do anywhere between 20 and 40 a day. If that's the case, maybe a week. But we don't know what each property is going to present until we're on the site. We could have a site that has a multitude of chemicals that we have to deal with to remove, and we could be there for a day or 2 or 3, or we could be going from property to property, with 15-minute spans between each property because there's a limited amount of waste that we have to remove. So each property brings different variables. We hope to, get done in the shortest amount of time possible, but we do want to remove what we've been mission tasked to do and remove the public health and safety hazards that are there and present any long-term impacts. So we want to do our due diligence.
We've got a couple of additional questions that have popped up. I have fire damage to one end of my pump house. Can I remove the burnt portion and repair the wall myself?
I think you work with Lewis on that, right? If
Yeah,
it's
I
a
guess-
water issue.
Well, I think that it'd be a structural issue as well. I mean, if it comes down to if the pump house can be repaired, you're not talking about a complete removal. We don't have a burned debris pile that we're dealing with, then that's one thing. I mean, if we have some burned walls, I think it'd be removing those burned walls and replacing those and making your repairs. You can talk to me directly or the building department to get some more specific answers on that. But I think it's going to be on a case-by-case basis. I would just say, as we've said earlier, if you're going to be opting into this program, don't remove anything. I mean, if we're going to be removing burned debris from your property, let the crews come in and they can assess what needs to be done. I guess that's the best answer I can give right now.
Thanks, Liz. We have a caller, Susan Barnes. I'm going to unmute you and you can please ask your question.
Hi, this is Susan Barnes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Mine is more not related to the cleanup effort. It's more related to the county and the maintenance of East Side Lane. There's a barbed wire fencing that's always been there running on the easement. And that's what I'm talking about. I just want to put it on somebody's radar. A lot of that fencing is down and post or burnt. And for us property owners, we don't know, should we remove that fencing from that butts up against our property, or is the county taking care of it?
I think we can get that answer. I know that on tomorrow's Board of Supervisors meeting, there's an agenda item to approve the replacement of guardrail. So I will bring it up, this question tomorrow to the Road Department and Public Works at the Board of Supervisors meeting. And if you can put your contact, or I guess if you're on the phone, send me an email or somebody on the team. There, as you guys can see, there's a team working every day on the fire recovery that are perfectly willing and very able to answer questions and respond to people daily. So just feel free don't wait for another week for another meeting, or even till tomorrow, if you can email your questions or concerns. But I will bring that up tomorrow at the Board of Supervisors meeting and make sure that they're aware of that. And that if it's on an easement that is a county easement, then the county should get an answer back on that.
Perfect, thanks.
Will we be charged for rebuilding permits?
If you are rebuilding, there's a waiver for permit fees. If you're rebuilding within the, and I don't want to give a complete and final answer on this, but if you're basically rebuilding a similar structure to what was there before in terms of footage and livable space and location and that type of thing. But the idea is that the county is trying to provide the most expeditious, cost-effective, and as least restrictive of a process from a timely standpoint, a cost standpoint, and a burden on the property owner. So, but there's a gentleman by the name of Michael Jones in the building department who is tasked specifically with dealing with building department issues. There's also Jason Davenport, who is somebody that is part of the EOC, and he is with the building department, and they can both answer more thoroughly this question, but I think I kind of got it right.
For more details, I think Thursday evenings, RPAC, April Saul will also be there. She works with community development and she can clarify.
How to get permit for temp power? We called building department last week and no return calls as of yet. Also, who to get a hold of to guide homeowner through process.
That's going to be Michael Jones. And perhaps we can put a phone number in there and make sure that you're calling the correct number for the permit tech, and he should be able to walk you through the process even remotely, which is how most things are going right now.
We put up no trespassing signs to keep looters out. Will these hamper phase 1 work?
Sometimes they can. If we can gain access, gates can be locked because of that as well, because they don't want trespassers. If the gates can be unlocked or dummied for us, great. But I understand that you need to protect yourself from people coming onto the property who should not be there. That's why we're going in and we're being escorted by the county to intervene with the property owner to gain access to the property.
Some of us who do not have insurance will be stuck financially for quite some time before we can start rebuilding. How long will the rebuilding permit assistance be available?
Again, I'll try to answer this one, but contacting the building department directly is the best way to get these answers. But I know that there are some timelines that, you're going to have a certain amount of time, and I'm not sure if it's 18 months to pull a building permit, but I know that was discussed about having temporary housing on your property as a timeline of 18 months. And I think that those questions can be answered by April at the RPAC as well on Thursday night. But we'll get specific answers to you, better answers to you if you communicate directly with the department that is dealing with the recovery and your question on the recovery. So Michael Jones, again, his contact is in the chat, as well as April's putting up the building department phone number. And if you didn't get a call back there with the holidays, I'm sure that they're catching up with their return calls in the next couple of days. And you can always also call me. And most everyone knows how to get a hold of me. And my contact information is readily available on the Mono County website. And I will put my cell phone again in the chat right now.
What about septic tanks located close to the back of a property, and how are they affected when phase one is started?
I can just mention septic tanks. I mean, as far as phase one goes, the crew that's out there will probably not be, in direct contact with septic tanks. They're going to be on the burn debris pile. If a tank is close by, I think certainly if there's a lid that's burned or something along those lines, that has to be identified. Nobody's been on the property yet to flag septic tanks. So I think that's going to be one of the things that Brian's team is going to have to be aware of. But in most cases, tanks are going to be at least 10 feet away from the structures, the burn structures themselves. So it'll just be on a case-by-case basis. We'll just try and be safe and not, it's really a safety issue for the crews. So I think that's the question is, how will people, deal with septic tanks too close to the property or to the burn debris pile where people are going to be working. I think it'll be a case-by-case basis.
For phase one, we don't deal with septic tanks, but if we come across a septic tank, we make sure that all our crew team are aware of it. If there's an open top to it, we will mark it with orange paint to make it readily available so that no one goes into the septic tank. We're not there to create damage. We're there to remove the waste. We will be cognizant of septic tanks if we come across them, and we'll avoid them so that we do not damage them, nor will any of our crew members get hurt.
And just to add on that real quickly, we will address septic tanks in the phase two portion. So they'll be identified ahead of time by either environmental health or by the Cal Recycle teams when they go out there, so that they're avoided.
Is there assistance for a trailer or temporary housing if we are not in the area to help us as we are working on property?
I'll go ahead and respond to that. If you've had the opportunity to respond to the needs survey, then we've collected the information, hopefully that would have identified your needs as temporary or intermediate housing. If you haven't done that yet, again, contact Kathy and her team. Let them know that that's what your needs are, even if you are out of the area. And we will consider that as we continue to bring in other resources and try to match the resources to the family needs. There are trailers that we are looking at, but until we really get a good sense about what people need and what the county is going to be able to provide, we'll have more details on those in the coming meetings.
And Justin, if I can piggyback on that, if somebody is listening and they haven't worked with us on the survey of needs, if they could call the Walker Social Services office, and it's in the chat. I posted it in one of the very first things in the chat, 530-495-1262, or they could call Pat at the Senior Center, 530-495-2323, or they could email me. So lots of ways to get to us to fill out the survey of needs if somebody hasn't done that. And we'll record those names and make sure that your counted is interested in a trailer. Thank you.
Well, I would say we want to help. We are here to help in this recovery as a county, as a state, and just as people who care about the community and the recovery. So please don't hesitate to ask questions. If you send me if you leave me a voicemail or send me an email, I'm going to try to route it through the most effective resource for you to get the best and most thorough answer. So communication is the key, especially in these next few weeks as the cleanup takes place and the intermediate housing is worked out. And we do want to help, and we want to help everybody. And we just need to know what it is that you're stuck with, or you're at a crossroads in your recovery. Just don't hesitate to reach out to us. And I really want to thank our team, our county administrative officer, Bob Lawton, and his EOC led by Justin Nalder, and the many other folks who are just actively working every day to try to make this as palatable as possible, and like I said earlier, as expeditious and cost effective that we can do to the best of our ability as county public servants. And again, I just wanted to remind everyone that the Community Center Donation Center is still active and open and trying to hook up needs of families with what their immediate needs are, their longer term needs with the goods that they have there. And they'll be open through the month. And I would encourage you to visit there or get on Facebook and send your requests through the Facebook channels. Anybody else have any other closing comments that they would like to put out there? I don't see any more questions in the Q&A. I just want to thank everybody. Justin, why don't you close it?
Okay. I don't know how good of a closing comment this will be, but you'll notice a lot of increased activity coming into and out of Walker Landfill transfer station. We're using that as kind of the home base and the temporary staging site for all of the cleanup efforts that are going on. However, the landfill and the transfer station will continue to be open as regularly scheduled on Wednesdays and Saturdays. So if you show up on a Monday and the gate's open, that doesn't mean it's open for receiving materials. We appreciate you kind of abiding by that. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you, everybody. And we will we'll be back next Monday. And again, Board of Supervisors tomorrow, 9 a.m. And our pack is at, I believe, 6:30 on Thursday evening. And you can find Zoom links to that on the county website. So have a good evening, and we'll see you on the next Zoom. And thanks to Cal OES and DTSC for participating tonight.